Are you tired of losing to self-righteous pricks like these? Are you fed up with their hyper-modern, ultra-accelerated bullshit? Then boy have I got the opening for you. The King's Pawn opening. Noble is its name and devastating is its game. This simple move is enough to make children weep, women cry for fear, and anybody else throw the board across the room lest they be crushed by the fist of defeat. But what's so special about this opening that sets it apart from the others? Let's find out together in this episode of 4 Noobs. We experienced the golden age of the King's Pawn opening in 1865, when over 96% of all tournament games played began with the move e4. However, in the late 1890s, with the rise of Emanuel Lasker, Frank Marshall, Xavier Tartakower, Aaron Nimzowitsch, and later Max Euwe, who popularized the strong Sicilian defense in response to 1e4, the popularity decreased to an all-time low of 27% in the early 1930s. Currently, it is the most popular opening used in tournament games, with a pick rate of about 44%, the next highest being the Queen's Pawn opening at 36%. In terms of some of the rarer responses, we have the King's Pawn opening, the Hippopotamus defense, the Cornstalk defense, the Lemming defense, the Fred, the Barnes defense, the Fried Fox defense, the Cars defense, the Reversed Grob, the St. George defense, the Owen defense, the Guatemala defense, the Nimzowitsch defense, the Wheeler Gambit, the Nimzowitsch defense again, the Colorado counter, the Nimzowitsch defense again, the Marshall Gambit, the Buglibov variation, and the Neo-Gambala defense. These are all shit, so if you see them in a game, just follow basic opening principles and you'll be fine. In terms of mainline responses, we have the Scandinavian defense, the Alekhines defense, the Robotage modern defense, the Perk defense, the Caracan defense, the Sicilian defense, and finally the French defense. Now these are serious replies, and if you're planning on becoming a King's Pawn master, then you're going to need to study every single one of these variations to at least a couple of lines deep. Just remember, you can always improvise and build off of the basic opening principles if you find yourself in unfamiliar territory. Now, if you're a beginner, which I'm guessing you are since you clicked on this video, you're going to want to discard everything I just said about openings, because at your level, 70 to 80% of the time people are going to be responding to your King's Pawn opening with the King's Pawn game, that is e4, e5. In terms of the King's Pawn game, e4, e5, we have the center game, Bishop's opening, the Vienna game, the King's Gambit, the King's Knight opening, Philidor's defense, Petrov's defense, the King's Pawn game, the Scotch game, the Three Knights game, Four Knights, Scotch variation, King's Pawn game again, Ivan's Gambit, the Jeu Piano, the Two Knights defense, and finally the Roy Lopez. Now you might be thinking to yourself, how the hell am I meant to memorize all of these different openings? You're not. I thought I'd just give you an idea of the vast array of different possible games that can come out of this single opening move, e4. Coming up, I'm going to show you some pro tips that'll help you in pretty much any King's game opening. Tip number 1 is that you're pretty much always going to want to develop your pawn to e4, your knight to f3, and then your light-squared bishop either to c4 or b5. This fast kingside development means that you can castle very early, and if your opponent doesn't catch up in their development, you can launch some very quick attacks. Pro tip number 2. If you're looking for some attacking lines, I'd recommend looking into the fried liver attack, where white gives up a knight for a pawn, but gains massive compensation on their counterplay against the vulnerable enemy king stranded in the center of the board. Or in some different lines, you'll have the chance to play the Ivan's Gambit, where white gives up a pawn on b4 in exchange for strong control over the center, and after castling, can exploit black's weak king in the center and start to push their pawn majority to go for a strong attack. Pro tip number 3. If these aggressive games where white gives up static advantages for a dynamic game aren't your style, then you can look into playing the Roy Lopez. Here, after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, white plays bishop to b5. This opening is much more positionally rich, and can often lead to positions like these, where neither side has traded any pieces this many moves into the game. Hopefully you found something that works for you. After this quick overview, you may feel attached or drawn to a specific variation of the king's pawn opening, and once you research it, you too can use this flexible opening move to either go crazy on an attack against the enemy king, or to play subtle moves and form elaborate plans to outplay your opponent during the middle game. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.